We usually give guests a really nice long intro, but for you, I think we're just going to skip it all.
Fuck it, man.
Yeah. You'll get your intro when, we bring on the show.
Zion is, though, it's like the human body has evolved very far, and NBA athletes have as well, but I think there's a limit, and he seems like he's pressing that limit just in terms of size, athletic ability, jumping ability. It's like there's only so much that a knee can withstand.
He makes me very nervous. The way he walks doesn't look right. It's like when Porzingis would throw down dunks for the Knicks, I would always be like, that doesn't look right. I remember when the Knicks drafted Porzingis, Phil Jackson said, this guy's never gonna work because he's too weak. And there was a moment where I was like, oh, he's doing mind games, and now I see him like he might have known back then.
Yeah,
it's kind of messed up that he drafted him, and then
Were you one of the Knicks fans on draft night, like crying and booing Porzingis?
No, because
you were hopeful.
Well, I just didn't know enough, so I was kind of like, who is this guy? I got nervous that they're following the whole Dirk thing. There was a period where they would just draft bigs who could shoot.
Yeah.
Because Dirk worked out, Bargnani, who we traded for as well.
Yep.
I mean, that was, man, the Raptors have fleeced the Knicks so many times. Yeah. Masai's amazing,
That's
but
true.
No, I wasn't mad about him. I try not to hate on any of the draft night picks. But, man, we've had some misses in the last few years. That Ntilikina didn't work out. Kevin Knox didn't work out.
Yeah.
Our later picks were Quickly, Mitchell Robinson. David Lee was a late pick back in the day. But, you look at who we take early. It's always like Michael Sweetney or Channing Ryan. Like, what are we doing?
Channing was a good pro.
He was a good pro, but not with us.
Yeah,
true.
Fair.
I got to tell you, man, I've heard like, oh, so-and-so's a basketball fan or this guy, but like we've been dialing it up here for a little bit, even before we started running or recording. And like, you've had some serious name drops between like Andre Blatch, Mike Sweetie, like the depth of your fandom and knowledge. It's genuinely impressive. Like, I mean that wholeheartedly.
I've been through it all as a Knicks fan. I'm hardcore. It's in me to hate the Miami Heat because of the 90s. All I see when I see the Miami Heat logo is I picture PJ Brown flipping Charlie Ward in the stands, and I get angry. But I do like your team. It's tough. Like I love Spo.
Yeah.
Jimmy's awesome. You and Tyler Hero, both great shooters. I mean, Bam is great. Who doesn't love Kyle Lowry?
For sure.
I mean,
PJ Tucker.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it makes me mad because I'm like, that should be the Knicks culture. That like tough kind of like, we play D. That was the 90s Knicks.
I like how you lumped Tyler and myself in together as kind of one entity. What was the thought process there? Just out of curiosity. It happens a lot. It's kind of a running joke that we like to touch on.
Because you're both shooters. I mean, I guess Tyler is.
That's it. It ends there.
It's just the shooting.
Well, do you think it's because you're both white? Is that what it is?
No.
Yes.
I mean, like I always joke about how like Tyler and I at one point may have had somewhat, similar games. I think now at this point we play very differently. Like Tyler has a higher usage, has a ball in his hands a lot more. But no, I mean, we always just joke about, I always get called Tyler Hero in public settings. Like probably on the way here, I was surprised at some point I wasn't, is that Tyler Hero? Like I just get it all the time.
You must get recognized a lot.
No.
He does.
He's tall as hell.
Yeah,
he
does.
I don't, I honestly don't. And he's probably going to say that I do. In Miami, maybe a little bit, but like outside of Miami, no.
No, that's true. But what changed a lot was the finals run, because before that, nobody, even in Miami, people wouldn't stop him. After the finals run, the notoriety jumps a little bit.
Yeah, a bubble run, like everyone's kind of watching.
Yeah,
because there's nothing else to do. I miss the NBA so much, and I was rooting for you guys over the Lakers because I don't want to see the Lakers win. I hate Los Angeles fans. They're the most spoiled fans. Now the Rams won. It's like it's like Boston 7 or 8 years ago where they just didn't know losing. There's like a whole generation of kids that don't know what it feels like to lose.
Yeah.
I'm very much in that. I mean, I grew up a Boston sports fan, obviously no longer a Celtics fan in any way, shape, or form.
I hate the Celtics. I hate them.
Well, at one point, you're right. As a Boston sports fan, there's that kid at all the parades where he's like, this is my 9th parade in 6 years. It's like, they just win it between the Bruins, Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox. Like we were just running them off.
Yeah, That Celtics team was also, unfortunately, a cool team. Like, who doesn't think Garnett is cool? I mean, and Ray Allen's one of the best shooters ever. Pierce, I hated Paul Pierce because he always hit the game winner on the Knicks. He would always just milk the clock.
Step back going right every time.
So clutch.
Just get back to that midi and it's game over.
And he got fired in the coolest way possible. Like, if you're going to get fired from a job, do it smoking a blunt with strippers. That's the way to go.
I also think there's something about, like, that's the whole appeal of having these ex-athletes still in the social media. Like, this is what you expect from them almost, right?
And it's like Disney too.
They've retired, they've made all this money, they've done it. Now they're still young enough to go enjoy life. I almost support it.
I hate Disney because it's like your company was basically founded by a raging anti-Semite, and you're tossing this guy aside because he smoked a blunt. Give me a break.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I'm not going to comment on that, but it's fair.
Yeah, that's a loaded one.
I'll never have a special on Disney, so I can say that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We don't know that.
Well, it's true. We don't know.
It's I'm actually curious. You bring up the specials. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. I'm curious of the kind of curation process behind what goes into actually making a special, because there's got to be hours and hours of content, right?
Yeah,
that you're sifting through.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look at it like the way you guys live basketball. I live comedy. I'm on the road every week. I don't take weeks off. You know, I love to just, I mean, I also think about like, how the hell do you fly every week and play? Because I have like a herniated disc in my neck from just flying, and then I just tell jokes. So yeah, I do the road constantly. I'm doing 8 shows in San Diego this weekend. I want the reps. I want to try a new line every show. I find like you can tell the comics who don't put the work in, and the special, like maybe they have good premises and ideas, but the execution sucks. Just like you can tell a guy, like it's like a kid who could born dunk, you know?
Yeah, right.
Out of the gate he can dunk, but he's got no jumper, he's got no handles. And then you see guys who every year they add some of their game, right?
Right.
You're one of those guys. You're undrafted, and now you're an integral part of a winning team.
No, I mean, there's always those kids in high school that just like developed earlier than everybody else, and you can just kind of tell like he's probably like he's plateaued in some respects. I'm curious, what is like how has road life elevated for you since you've now kind of risen to?
He's that guy.
Where you are like legitimately like you're in movies now. You know, like you're all over the place.
I have one line in The Joker. I'm not a movie guy. I mean, movies were never something that really interested me. I mean, like, I love movies. I'm a big movie fan, but I was never like I want to act. That was never something that I love. Stand up. I love. You're asking how is
like road life, like hotels, travel. Like now, are you able? Because I was in the G League, right, for basically a whole season, and we're looking at not quite best westerns, but we're looking at multiple commercial flights. We're looking at
which on your body, dude.
Yeah, 100%. And then you're also expected to play. So I have a ton of empathy for guys that are doing that G League grind. But now, you know, we're chartered flights, we're the nicest hotels. So you talk about playing, but we also have first class travel and all that sort of thing. Now, I imagine you're paying your own way to all these different stuff or whatever. So like that's got to be a grind.
It's a grind, but you know, it's like you said, you know, it was horrible for the first, you know, many years on the road, but I just saw that's what the comics I respected did. They would do the road hard, and you would see. You're like, oh, this is the way. This is how you do it. So, yeah, the hotels were horrible for years. They had something called comedy condos where you're like, oh, I know that the comic who was here was jacking off in this bed the week before me. I don't want to be in this bed, you know? So,
right.
I hated those, but you learn to love it. You're like, this is what I have to do.
It's a grind,
Yeah, so if you want to do this thing, you just know. I mean, like you don't want to go take 500 shots, but you're like, this is what you do. Same with writing jokes. Same with I gotta focus on this today. It's if I want to get here, I have to do this.
How much of it is that like work ethic versus I got to imagine there's also some people that are just naturally gifted, right? They just have that wit, that ability, and I would assume that all comics do to some extent, but like. Finding that sweet spot between the repetitions and putting in the hours and also combining it with some sort of just given talent or ability.
That's a great question. I mean, it's kind of like what you're doing, right? Like you're never going to be a guy who's like posterizing dudes with dunks. You're like,
well,
what?
I've got a couple to my name.
No, but that's not your game, right? Your game is catch and shoot. Like you find your spots. With comedy, there's a lot of different types of comics, right? There's comics who are great act out guys. They can perform in movies and stuff. There's writers. There's people that have a little bit of everything. You kind of see what your skill set is. You go to that and you're like, this is how I will make a dent. This is what I can do well. And I think road comic was something that was like, I'm guaranteed to work this way. Like with writing rooms, if I want to write on a show, I'm like, I'm waiting for someone to hire me, for someone to okay me.
Right.
No one's really, if I'm selling tickets on the road, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
So I liked that I was in control of that. But then, you talk about road life, you have to, like, you can't be drinking on the road. You have to be healthy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy.
I keep it pretty tight, I will say.
Yeah.
But the greater,
the door's open for those who want to take it.
There's a lot of extracurriculars that are taking place.
I want names in this podcast. No, but it's, especially with your coach, it'd be hard to get away with that,
Right.
I mean, it's easy to be like, well, I'm going to drink. The club's not, they don't even charge me for alcohol here. I can do whatever I want, but at a certain point you get a little older and you're like, I'm hungover. I have 3 shows tonight. I need to feel better than this. You kind of just learn to do what you have to do. Otherwise, you become that dude.
Right. Or probably you can justify it also as like a little bit of a performance enhancer,
Right. I was going to say.
Feel a little comfortable on stage, after a couple beverages, really lean into the
I think playing a basketball game hungover is probably harder than stand-up hungover, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I mean, yeah, I've definitely seen players. I'm like, that dude drank last night.
Well, certain guys can get away with it too. If your level of skill is so high that you can.
We talk about in Miami having the ultimate home court advantage because everybody comes to Miami. Everyone has that Miami road trip circled on their calendar of like, hopefully we're falling on a Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. And then when they come in, like most teams, you can tell probably had a good time. I don't blame them, especially if you're in like, not to take any shots here, but like Oklahoma City or Minnesota or Cleveland, like some of these cities where it's like 5 degrees all season long. It's nice to be in Miami. You got to lean into it a little bit.
Right. We don't want to call names out here, but say you were playing in Philly and say that your hamstring hurt. If your team was playing in Miami, you'd probably make the road trip.
For sure. I mean, Philly right now, dude, I want to see Harden play. I want to see this team. I'm curious, but Philly, great city, but Miami is more of a party city for sure.
For sure. Are you obviously you're tapped into particularly the Eastern Conference? I would imagine, given that you're a Knicks fan. What were your reactions to the blockbuster trade deadline deal?
For the
Philly,
I hate
Simmons.
Any New Yorker who roots for the Nets is a fake New Yorker. They're not real. They're just not a real New Yorker. Like, they're not a real. They're a New Jersey team. They're also the fact that KD, like, it's such. I really hope that Kyrie just can't play. That's my hope.
It sounds like he's going to be able to.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's trending that way.
There's no more exciting player than Kyrie Irving. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's incredible.
But God, I'm angry they didn't come to the Knicks. There's still some residual hatred there. KD is incredible. No one can say that KD is not one of the best players of all. I can't imagine what he's
incredible. No, he's incredible. Yeah, you try to do what you can to slow him down.
Look, I've met Blake. He's awesome, and I've always liked Blake a lot.
He's hilarious, by the way. Blake is
a genuinely, not just like comedy funny, like a genuinely funny guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know him. I've met him like once, but he was a cool guy. And Simmons fits perfectly for them. It's annoying. He fits better than Harden, to play him at the 5. And then, this dude, he's a great passer. He's got some mental health stuff, clearly. Look, New York's the place to be. If we have the best therapist in the country.
For sure.
Get this guy a neurotic Jew on the Upper West Side. He's going to be in great hands. But, no, Simmons, I don't like how he handled it. I don't really respect how he handled it. Harden's done it twice now, though.
Right.
You got to.
Right. Well, here's the thing. It keeps working for these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They get to where they want to go.
Yeah. It's a move that if you're the Heat and the 1 seed, both teams, I think, get better. So it's probably not great for you. But for the Knicks, I don't know if it really changes your guys' season that much.
No, we got Cam Reddish. We traded a first rounder for Cam Reddish, who, has gotten garbage time minutes only. I don't know. I know we're going to bring Zion in. It's going to reunite the big 3. Zion's going to weigh. He's going to weigh 400 pounds by the time we mortgage our whole future for him. I'm sure it's going to be terrible. I'm nervous for that. I don't like the mortgaging the whole. I hated what they did. I was thrilled they got Melo, but I'm like, do you have to trade? How many picks do we have to give up? Yeah. I loved Raymond Felton in New York.
Legend.
Gallinari's a health issues a lot, but a very good player.
Yeah.
And Mozgov was the man. I mean, that guy got paid. Remember when the way shooters are getting paid now? Big men. There was a summer where it was
Biombo, Bismack.
Yeah, but he's looking good.
He is. He's playing really well in Phoenix. It's actually been good to see him back. I want to like kind of tap into your mental and really the overall kind of approach from Knicks fans of. Why is it that every single summer in free agency there is like this budding optimism that a KD, that a Kyrie, like that they're going, like it's almost a certainty. You know what I mean? Like that you guys, like some sort of confidence.
And do you fall into that?
Well, look, KD and Kyrie did come to New York. They just didn't come to the place we wanted. I mean, I do think this is a great city. You've played in the Garden. There's nothing
it's
like
unbelievable.
it. Yeah. You're here in February right now. It's 60 degrees. I hope you remember that next time you're a free agent.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, this is a great city. It's culturally incredible. We got Broadway. We got dropping 50 in the Garden. There's nothing like it. Like, look, we're tough fans.
Not that I've done that.
Yeah.
I definitely have not done that.
We've seen the footage of Kobe. We've seen Carmelo dropping when he had 62 in the Bobcats. You know, like there's something magical about, dropping 50 in the Garden about I remember it was a game, Knicks Celtics, Michael Beasley just came in and had like 35. And it was one of those amazing games where you're like, I was sitting behind Tracy Morgan, who was just like screaming nonsense, but you're like, you're just like, he turned around at one point, he goes, real animals eat meat. And we were like, yes.
Amen.
Whatever he's saying, I'm with it. But, no, the Garden is the best. So, look, I've been to the Staples Center. It's fine. It's not the Garden.
No, the Garden's different, 100%.
So I really think there's something about that. There's something about being in this media capital. Like, you saw I know, like, Knicks fans are being tough on Randall this year, but, like, you saw how much we embraced him last year. Like, I love Julius Randle still. I hope we find a way to make it work with him because I love that he's got so many skills. We've been missing Derrick Rose 30-plus games. That guy was our anchor, So... Yeah. Dude, we made the first round last year. Did you hear that building?
It was nuts.
I was at game 1. I bought tickets in the air. I was flying back from Salt Lake. I'm like, if the plane takes off, I'm buying tickets. So I get tickets in the air. I get my bud John with me. We go to the game, and it's like, we're like, this is the greatest thing ever. Of course, Randall is like the worst game of the season, and Alec Burks and Rose are the only guys who show up for us. So the villain Trae Young, we all hate him in New York. Great player.
I needed to ask about Trae Young because I don't know if you saw there was a Corday concert in New York City a couple of days ago, and the crowd's just chanting "fuck Trae Young," and he's on stage. He's like, "Guys," he's like, "Stop!" It's like we're trying to vibe to music right now. It's like I have nothing to do with Trae. It's like where does it? I get that there's so much passion, and maybe there was just so much excitement for this first playoff series, and he's the reason it ended. But the fact that it's still a thing.
He's a great player. I mean, it's a compliment is how we should take it.
Fair.
Us saying fuck Trae Young is us saying you're good. Yeah. I mean, he's not just a great player, but he's a great clutch player, and he seems to thrive. He just lives for the hatred. Like, since because he's a little guy, he's got the funny, like, you've seen the meme, the lollipop on the barbershop floor. He knows that we make fun of his hair.
Right.
So it's like he's been that dude his whole career. So you have to learn to play under that pressure. He has a Reggie Miller-like vibe. I hated Reggie more than I've ever hated a basketball player. He was the villain, Reggie Miller. But no, the Hawks, I thought they'd be better this year. They have, Bogdanovich is really good. Yeah. Capella, they're a good team. So I was shocked.
Yeah.
Trae is, he's a great villain in a lot of different ways. It's interesting you bring up the Hawks and the Knicks because I do think that there's something going on with both teams in terms of when you win and then you bring back a very similar group or at least the same core, definitely the similar group for the Hawks and the Knicks as well. Everything starts to shift a little bit when expectations start to come in. Both teams last year were great stories, right?
The Hawks beat the Sixers. That wasn't just a story.
But to make it where they did, and then all of a sudden you bring back the guys and you pay the guys that you do, all of a sudden now it's just hard to manage those expectations with the change in kind of, it's egos, it's the money, it's everything that kind of plays a role in coming back. Because everyone always points to like, oh, well, they're bringing back the same team. They're going to be a year better, a year older. But like I think we've seen with both teams, it doesn't always work out that way, which I imagine as a fan is like you have these expectations of, all right, we took the team that ended up going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We gave them a great series. Why are we not better this year, right?
Yeah, just certain guys you think are going to develop in a way. I think Emmanuel quickly looked incredible for us last year, and he's kind of taken a step backwards. I think without Rose in that second unit, Rose really just knew how to get him the ball. I think he built his confidence up. I mean, how could Rose is such an iconic player? Like, how can if I'm on the road with a comic who I think is like a genius, he's going to build my confidence up. So that's I think Rose. His leadership was so huge for us last year. Then Randall just was on a fucking tear. Like, the guy couldn't be stopped last year. RJ always starts slow for some reason. He always has a good second half. This year, he, again, was horrible out of the gate and then started to look great the last month. That shot in Boston. That
was incredible.
I love RJ. I really believe in RJ. Mitchell Robinson, is an incredible athlete, but he's not consistent. So I want to see more consistency from him. I think he could get there. I hope they re-sign him. Not crazy money, I hope. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're right. The expectations were high, and the East is really good now. And the East is better than the West.
Yeah.
I mean,
when's the last time that happened?
As a Knicks fan, you've got to look at the Eastern Conference and just feel despair because it seems like there's like 10 legitimate playoff teams, and the Knicks are not one right now.
You look at a team like the Blazers, and I think they blew it up too late. Like, you can't be like a perennial 6 or 7 seed, especially in the West, and just you're not, like, the Blazers got swept by the Nuggets last year without Jamal Murray.
Right.
That's a sign that you got to blow it up sooner.
Yeah.
And I get keeping Dame, but, like, you gave up 2 first-rounders for Covington. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, he's a good player, but, like, it's a lot.
There's another name that's thrown around to the Knicks, by the way, Dame.
Dame,
Russ.
I don't want to know. Rebuild. Rebuild it's underrated. Knicks fans are...
And there's young talent.
So you want to go straight young guys?
I like our young guys. I think Quentin Grimes looks like a good player.
Yeah, he's been really good.
He plays D. Reminds me a little bit of Danny Green. Plays D. He's got the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
Green's a little taller, I guess, but quickly I still think is a killer. I think he's having a bad shooting year, but I love him. I'm just plagued by the fact that we passed on Tyrese Halliburton to this day. I knew it that night. Obi Toppin Showtime. I love him. But Tyrese Halliburton...
Dunk champ, Obi Toppin.
Yeah, I was going to say, put some respect on it.
Is he a champion or is everyone else just lose?
I will die on this hill. He gave a good performance.
No, the first one was incredible.
Incredible.
And look, I love Obi, but that was the worst dunk contest of all. The dunk contest is over. Get rid of the dunk contest. Everyone, you weren't in the 3-point contest this year. They could have used you. But, I mean, Towns... looked awesome.
Was awesome.
3-point contest is the headliner.
I agree.
It's surpassed.
Really? You think it's surpassed?
So much better. I love watching. Holy crap. When the shooting is so much more of a rush to me. Like when Steph was in it or Clay and this year, Kennard is a great, beautiful shot.
Yeah. So I was there. I was in the arena in Cleveland. And the energy for the 3-point contest was infinitely higher than the dunk contest. Now, granted, the dunk contest started with Cole Anthony taking like 15 minutes to put on Tim's, and so that sapped things a little bit. But the energy was so low throughout it because guys are missing dunks. And so I imagine, I guess this is a question for you, but I imagine that when the energy is that low, it's silent in there, and you're supposed to be pulling off these dunks. Like, that must just make it infinitely harder. The guys shot what? It was like 8 for 40 from the field during the dunk contest or something like that.
Is that actually what it was?
It was something ridiculous.
Jeez.
It was bad.
Like Russell Westbrook. It was one of his nights. I mean, it's it's crazy, man. The dunk contest is, and we've just seen it all. You see what Kobe won with in the 90s. Like between the legs, and you're like, Obi does that for his like plan B.
Right. I really think that's what it is.
I think that's the part of the issue is that guys like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, Derek Jones, they've just ruined it. They've set the bar so high with that it's like almost the way that they've kind of reinvented the All-Star game with the finish, and now they're trying to do it with the Rising Stars. You got to come up with something for the dunk contest to like revitalize it. Because you're right, everything's been done at this point.
It's like kids with porn now. You can't appreciate sex because you've seen it all. It's really what happened. Like, Dominique Wilkins is like the greatest porn star of all time. What Dominique did in the 80s is like, I think he's one of the most underrated dunkers. I mean, because everyone shows the Jordan clips. I'm like, look what Dominique is doing, man.
Well, people do his dunks like in traffic now, in games.
True. Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like everything has just been, and that's not that, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about this, but that also ties into this whole generation argument around like the NBA 75, right? It's like, how do you actually compare Klay Thompson, Dwight Howard to some of these guys that got the nod for that list? It's like, it's almost impossible to do. I'm going to stay out of dropping names, but you know.
I mean, Bob Cousy, I love Bob Cousy, but can that guy really, like, do you think he could really take on like Kyle Lowry?
He went behind the back and the stands like lost their mind. You know what I mean? It's the same. It's like Vince Carter, like going back to dunk. Like Vince Carter is the greatest, one of the greatest dunkers ever.
Yeah.
Everyone in that dunk contest this past week could have done his dunks that he blew the world away.
Just glided. There was a
grace to his dunks for sure.
Sure, and that's fair. But yeah, the level of athleticism is just
on the top 75
for sure.
I mean, that guy was a freak. I remember watching T-Mac. He was like my favorite non-Nick to watch. It's very hard for me to look. I was very loyal to that like early aughts, you know, Spreewell, Houston.
Love that.
Love those guys,
yeah.
man. Spree was just the man. You know, anyone who chokes their coach and then turns it around in New York, that never happens. You know?
Did you have the spinners? The shoes with the spinners?
I did not, but
I had a pair. I had a pair of spinners, yeah. Those were, I mean, those would like, after like day 5, they would just start to like slowly peel open. It was just like such low quality, but so cool.
So the Marbury's. You want to talk about the low quality?
Oh, yeah.
Those were $12.
Oh, yeah.
I bought like 3 pairs and they all, I was like, well, these will be my pairs forever. I'll have 3 Marburys. And of course.
Yeah,
Marbury had a great run in New York. He really did, though.
I loved him, but man,
Staten Island kid, like it's, you know.
Oh no, I mean his story's incredible. There's that book by Darcy Frey, you know what I'm talking, The Last Shot, about that Lincoln team. He was the freshman. Incredible book, but you know, none of those other kids made it. Marbury was like the only one. And He was the freshman on that team. And man, talk about that Knicks team. That front court was like Quentin Richardson when he gained a lot of weight, Zach Randolph when he gained a lot of weight, and Eddie Curry. And I was like, this is the fattest front court of all time. What the hell's happening? But I mean, I love that team. Crawford was the man for us. It was tough because Isaiah Thomas just did such a bad job. I remember him saying stuff like, I think Eddie Curry should be in the same sentence as Dwight Howard. And I was like, I'm a Knicks fan, and I feel like you're crazy. Dwight on the Magic was insane.
He was incredible. That's why I think Dwight was the biggest snub from NBA 75, just because I feel like his most recent rendition of what people see on a nightly basis has like in some ways tarnished how dominant he was. I mean, when he was basically defensive player of the year every year. He was top 5 in MVP voting every single year. Yeah. And they won. Like he took his team to the finals. Like he was as dominant as you could be.
That team was awesome.
Really good.
Turkoglu and Richard Lewis, was like a futuristic team.
Oh yeah.
That was a badass team.
100%. Those were fun teams. I'm curious, you talked about your hatred for the Heat and the Lakers.
Yeah.
I feel like the Knicks have had like spats with just about every particularly Eastern Conference team.
Definitely.
Is there like one that kind of maybe was personal to you in some way?
Reggie Miller was personal. Reggie, I hated. Like that. It was like my mom knew not to say his name in the house.
Wow, it was. How old were you when that was all?
I was at the game when Ewing missed the finger roll. We were like way high up, and my dad had to carry me out crying. I think I was 11. Ewing couldn't get up. He missed the finger roll, and Reggie went and kissed the court, and I hate it. Maybe, I don't know if he kissed the court that game or if it was the game where he pushed a blatant foul, Greg Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
There's still some turmoil in
I hate him. I respect him. He's a legend, and I don't know if he belongs on the NBA 75 either, though. Really, over Klay? I mean, I would rather have Klay Thompson than Reggie. I have some hatred for him. T-Mac over Reggie. Look, Reggie was a great player. The Pacers, I hated. I hated the Davis brothers. I know they weren't brothers, but I hated them. Mark Jackson, I despised. It was tough because he was a Knick, but it was before my time. And then he came back, and I was like, it's too late. You know, I remember all the shimmying he would do. He'd always hit the half-court shot. He was that dude. They were my number 1 most hated. Number 2 was the Miami Heat with Alonzo. I was at Patrick Ewing, the retirement night, and we all booed Alonzo Mourning. And I didn't realize how stupid it was. I'm like, he's there because they're friends. Like, Ewing asked him to be there. But we were like, nah, this guy sucks. I hate him. So Rashawn Leonard, Thunder Dan, that team, I hate it. Tim Hardaway, I hate it.
Anthony Carter hit the floater to win it over the backboard. He's on our staff now. Is a great dude, but I imagine you probably had a little disdain for him as well.
Yeah, that team was tough.
They were. They embodied like Pat Riley, like gut it out, make it ugly, find a way to win.
Well, the Knicks' biggest mistake was not retaining Riley in any capacity. Like, give that guy a piece of the team. Like, he will, and look at the Knicks' value on Forbes. We're still like the #1 franchise, and we don't win enough. So, you get Riley in there. I mean, he was, I knew how special he was as a kid. I knew that Pat Riley was, I mean, those Armani suits, the slick back hair. He looked like Michael Douglas in Wall Street. He looked like a movie star. He's like a handsome
It's
guy.
part of the appeal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where do you stand on Dolan?
Look, man, I mean, here's the thing. Dolan gets a lot of shit. The Oakley thing broke my heart, obviously.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
You said you were there for that game, right?
I was there for that game. But he's given the keys before. People like blame him when it's his fault, but he gave Phil Jackson the keys, and Phil Jackson was like, took an early retirement, sleeping during, like, I couldn't believe that. I was like, we got Phil Jackson on the Knicks, and so it's tough. I think it goes deeper than him. I think it's you got to turn it around. Like, where's Leon Rose?
Yeah.
Like, this guy hides more than Biden. Why is Biden showing his face more than Leon Rose?
And Biden's not showing his face.
I know.
I didn't realize that was like a common criticism of, to be honest with you, I'm not like super tapped in with all that sort of, not to say it's like media headlines, but like that is something that is very much circulated and talked about in New York media, right? Like
Leon Rose?
Yeah, like the whole kind of like, where's he at?
Where are you?
Yeah.
I mean, also trading this pick for Cam Reddish, and then Tibbs is like, I don't like Cam Reddish. And you're like, well, could you maybe run it by him? He's the coach. You're supposed to talk to the coach, right? So I kind of don't get what Leon Rose is doing. I, in theory, like the Reddish move because I think he's got a lot of talent. But, if the coach hates the guy, either don't get the guy or get a new coach.
Yeah.
Duncan referenced this earlier, but the basketball knowledge is high. I also love that this has just become a Knicks podcast.
Well, I have that effect on people.
No, but it's great.
I can talk any team, honestly. I have the league pass. I watch on the road. I love the NBA. I really love it.
What's outside of the Knicks? I know you talked about the Heat a little bit, but like, what's a sneaky team that you really enjoy watching on League Pass?
Well, I love that you guys got Lowry. I mean, not that for you. I mean, I can't root for you guys, but I think he's great. So I like him. I love watching Phoenix. I mean, Chris Paul is a magician, man. And Booker's great. Bridges is another guy the Knicks passed on. I think of that all. I knew that night. I was like, I know he's like a safe pick. There's guys like Miles Bridges where you're like, well, that guy could be like a star. He's like kind of a risk.
Yeah.
And he's looking great now. But, I mean, that draft, I think we passed on Bridges, Gilgeous Alexander, Michael Porter, and we took Kevin Knox. So that hurt for sure. But I like that I brought this back in the Knicks.
I was going to say, it didn't take long.
I like the Suns. I like, it's hard not to want to watch Luka anytime you can watch Luka. They really cram the Lakers down our throat.
They do.
On national television. I'm like, enough.
It never ceases to amaze me though how often you turn on a national TV game and it's the Lakers. Like it's just it feels like every national TV slot it's going to be the Lakers.
I hate watching them. I did like watching. I liked watching the Clippers because when Kawhi was healthy, because I think he's awesome. I love his game. I love Marcus Morris because he was great for the Knicks for that one year.
He shot it really well that year, I remember. And then they moved him at the deadline, right?
For Quickly. The pick that ended up being Quickly. So
which worked out.
It worked out, but I love Marcus Morris's game. I think he's like kind of a tough, gritty glue guy. I love him. They're a fun team to watch. Who else do I like? I mean, I'm kind of enjoying the Timberwolves this year.
Ooh.
Edwards is fun as hell.
He's talented.
Towns I've always loved. I don't know if honestly, I hate to say this because it's like a hack answer, but Golden State.
Yeah.
They're
incredible. Yeah.
I mean, Steph is on a clinic. It's fun to watch Wiggins in a low pressure role. It's like sometimes when a guy's the first overall pick, people just give up on them. But I'm like, this is a useful player in the right situation.
All-star. Starter. It's incredible.
I mean, that was ridiculous. That's some Korean pop propaganda, right? Some Korean pop stars like posting his name. But no, he's a very good player, but I just like Draymond and Clay. It's just that Clay's not healthy, you know, but
or Devin Booker probably should have got the nod on the starter. Yeah.
Oh, I meant like just from Golden State.
Yeah.
Devin Booker is incredible. Or Luka, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other team. I mean, Chicago is annoying. I hate Chicago, but they're really a fun team this year.
We talked about the free agents the Knicks have not gotten.
Yeah.
What about like moving forward?
What's back to the Knicks?
Well, you know, you just ran through basically the entire NBA that you're a fan of, which I appreciate, which is awesome. But like, who would you love to see wearing that jersey?
I was really bummed that Kawhi Leonard re-signed with the Clippers. I would have loved Kawhi, and he's such a great guy for New York media because he's so funny at media. Like he would have given the press nothing. They would have been like, "What's he thinking?" So I love just because he's a great defender too, and I love that he's just an incredible two-way player. And I think he would have been great. But yeah, I mean the free agency class this year sucks. Hopefully they mess that up in Milwaukee, and then we get Giannis in New York. We got a lot of great
That's shooting for the stars.
I mean, he's such a lovable player. I mean, he seems like a decent guy too, and he's a freak. I mean, he's the Greek freak. I'm trying. Who's a free agency? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Up this summer, it's not like last year was supposed to be the famed class, and then everybody re-signed longer or whatever.
I mean, Luka re-signed, which I'm like, you're gonna regret that, dude.
The extension,
that extension. They brought in about 8 guards to that team.
Well, it's hard.
I like Jalen Brunson. I wouldn't mind him in New York, but I don't know.
He's super solid. Yeah. Really, really good player. We've touched a lot of bases in terms of basketball. I do want to talk about a little bit your comedy.
Sure.
And particularly performance and kind of like performance anxiety. It's something that I've talked a little bit about on this podcast in terms of just being in high pressure situations and kind of the day-to-day weight that kind of holds. How have you kind of, because I honestly feel when I watch comics and particularly your stuff, it's the ultimate challenge in terms of you're walking out to a neutral crowd that isn't necessarily, and now you're at the point where you definitely have fans that follow you and are around, but like you still have to win over every room, first off. Yeah. And you're also getting immediate live feedback about how things are going, which I think is incredibly challenging because if it starts to go south, that's really hard to like pull it back.
It's not though. You think it is, but it's. I mean, I guess it can be, but sometimes on the road I'm doing an hour. So if I bomb, I'm like, it's kind of fun to dig a hole sometimes. It's kind of fun to be like, there's a part of me that's like, what if I did the worst? What if I just alienated the crowd? Sometimes I open by just trashing the city on them, and they like it. But if it doesn't work, I'm like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to fall on your face. I mean, the pressure situations, like there kind of aren't none anymore because. You think about, like, when you were a young comic, I remember I did horrible shows like Last Comic Standing and America's Got Talent because I was like, I was desperate.
Yeah.
But those are high pressure because you don't know how the hell they're going to cut you. So you're like, what are they going to do if I bomb? I'm going to be like Simon Cowell is going to call me like a talentless loser. This stinks.
Yeah.
So those, and they treat you terribly. You're there, you're like, they're messing with you the whole time. They're like, are you nervous? Are you nervous? And you're like, yeah, of course I'm nervous. Right. So I remember when I went on AGT, Simon, I heard like a Jewish rap troupe before me just get torn to shreds. He was like, you're terrible. You're never going to go anywhere. You're trash. And then I was like, oh, God, here it goes. So I remember going out and being like, let's try to get the crowd. It was like 5,000 people in Pasadena. I'm like, let's try to get them on my side. So he's like, what's the worst you ever bombed? I told a story about a guy walking up to me and spitting on me on stage. So I was like, all right, maybe they'll be rooting for me here.
Right.
And then I did really well. And then the next round, they were like, well, we don't know if we're going to use that on TV. And I was like, I got a standing ovation. I'm not going to use it. It's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then the next round I got, I think my call time was like 10 a.m. I went on stage at midnight. They're exhausted. The judges are exhausted. It's horrible. I still did well, but I got kicked off. So but I was like, all I want is to not be humiliated because I know what they do to people on these shows. I don't obviously never do a show like that again, but those are the times you're nervous. I did a late night set last week. I did the Corden show and the crowd's red hot. Those are nerve wracking. Like I've done those where the crowds aren't good and you're kind of like, oh crap, this is going to live forever on the internet. I'm performing for a crowd at 5 p.m. in Burbank. Like, who are these people, you know? So I did the James Corden show, and it went great. But then literally the last line, the last joke, I flubbed the line. And I go, I'm going to retake that. And they said, okay. And they let me redo it.
Oh,
and
nice.
And you can't tell in the edit. But I mean, stuff, I wouldn't have known you could do that as a young
With a
comic.
live audience, you can just run it back.
Yeah, well, you know, they don't air it
right
in a
yeah.
second. So I just said, hey, can I do? And they were like, of course. So I just retold the joke, and thank God.
I was going to say, I saw this, and you would have never known.
Exactly.
I saw you come out, and I can't remember what your opening line is, but you're not even getting to the joke, and the crowd just erupts in laughter.
They were seals. Thank God.
You're like, oh my God. So you can tell in your brain, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is going to go well.
Corden does a cool thing. I've done a lot of those shows, and like, you know, Colbert, I don't think is like a huge stand-up fan. So he's kind of, he's usually not even there for it. He was there for mine because it was early on the show. I think I was the first non-famous comic. I think it was like Jerry Seinfeld, then Maria Bamford, and then it was me. So I was like, I'll be the first, like, you know.
You're not non-famous.
Yeah, I was say you're famous.
Well, I'm not, but I really wasn't back then. It was whenever it was on. But you know, so then I go out there, and it's just like, they have an actor, and then they're like, our next guest is a comedian. And you're like, that's it? That's all I get? So they can be tough on those. I remember I did Fallon once, and it was like not a good set. And I followed Cory Booker, the politician. I'm like, you want me to follow Hope?
Yeah,
this is bullshit. So I go out there, and Fallon does a really classy thing where he goes out there and he goes, my mom was in the crowd. My mom lives in the city. So my mom and dad are there, and my mom is there, and he heard that. So he's like, this guy's mom is in the crowd. Please laugh. Like, this is a very hard thing he's doing right now. Like, you have to be present. And I still did poorly. I'm like, do you guys hate my mom or something? What the hell? But then Corden does a similar thing where he's like, just make sure to give a lot of energy because, you know, this is not the natural way to do stand-up, but we do it on the show.
Yeah.
And they were like too hot because of that, you know?
But I think it probably makes it easier, right?
I mean, of course. Yeah, because you're like, it's just going to work.
Yeah.
You know? So it's low prep. But I did like 4 minutes. It feels like 20. And then if I do the road and I do a show, I'm like, oh, wow, I did an hour 15. You don't realize it. But on those shows, it feels like forever.
Are there any bad heckler stories? Like anyone that sticks out?
Geez, well, the spit one sucked. That really was like...
So that actually happened?
Yeah, it was a low point. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't make it up. Yeah, it was a low point for sure. I was like working the door at Broadway Comedy Club. It stunk, and they would let me go on sometimes, and it was a pretty crappy club. It was the type of club where they would lie about who was going to be there. They'd be like a ticket team on the street.
Oh, no.
I remember a friend of mine was saying, he heard them once say, Tina Fey is going to be there. And I'm like, she doesn't do stand-up. So whoever you're lying to, but whatever, they were always mad. Yeah, a guy wouldn't stop heckling me, and I guess I just didn't handle it well at the time. You know, you get more confident, but I said whatever I said to him, just like, you stink, you're garbage. And he got up, and I heard it, and I was like, crap.
Oh, no.
So that sucked. And then I'm trying to think of other ones. Usually they don't get the best of you. I mean, you have a microphone. If you can't, I mean, it's literally like...
should be able to win it over.
It's like if a dude challenged you to basketball. Right. It's like, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Even if you are having an off day, you're going to light him up, you know?
I was going to say, does part of you almost relish that now? Like, now that you're seasoned... because I see some of these breakouts all the time on social media of like this comedian dealing with this heckler.
Sure.
And it's always entertaining for me, especially when the comic handles it well. So now that you're at this point where I'm sure you've heard it all, seen it all, it's almost like a content opportunity.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's good to promote dates so I can get the clip. And I usually have someone videotaping the show. So yeah, I'll use it to promote gigs. I get a lot of them still. And yeah, it's weird. I've heard them all. I've heard every insult. I'm kind of like, all right, let's go. It does feel like you're a UFC fighter and some dude's like, what? So you're kind of like, do you really want to? I have a microphone. You're actually a UFC fighter. You're like a UFC fighter with brass knuckles.
Right.
You know? So you're like, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
It's just like how weird you're going to make it. I don't care if people interrupt the show usually. It's really if they're just talking. If they're just having like a separate conversation and ignoring me. But if they're coming at me or whatever, I'm like, all right, I'll do it. But I'd rather work on material for sure. But I do so many sets that sometimes I'm sick of my jokes. I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm bored.
Do you still get like pre-show jitters? Like, is that nothing?
No, I mean, I feel like I do comedy more than I am a person at this point. I mean, I'm doing 8 shows this weekend. It's 8 hours. You know, it's like... I've just been doing it too long. I guess I got nervous before I went on Corden because I was just like, just don't fuck up. You've been doing this long enough. Just don't. I get nervous occasionally, but if it's like just a regular show, like if I bomb, who cares? No one. I
Yeah.
had a bad set at the Cellar last night. It's like no one saw. I mean, it's like 80 people in that side room. It's like no one cares.
Yeah.
You know, I was a little nervous because on the other one, Chris Rock went on after me. I'm like, oh, I don't want to have him to see me bomb. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, the Cellar's the best comedy club. So I mean,
So I've heard. Yeah.
You got to come. You guys got to come when you're both in town again. But because Liz, the manager. She loves the Heat, and her mom, Marianne, loves the Heat. So
love that.
They're
Can't wait to meet Marianne and Liz.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
They love you for sure. I mean, it is annoying that you're a likable team. You know,
I feel like it's not necessarily conducive to like what the Miami Heat should be.
No,
right? You know what I mean?
You should have a Grayson Allen on your team. That's who you should have on your team. I should be able to dislike your team.
No, I really do think like top to bottom we are pretty likable.
Well, why can't he be that guy? He kind of fits the mold.
I
trust you're not a dirty player. Grayson Allen's dirty. That's why people, you know. Do you not think he is?
You know, I think that obviously the stuff at Duke was what it was, and he developed a reputation there. And not to mention he's doing it at Duke, which I don't think helps at all.
No.
I think from a hateable standpoint, I think Duke's right up
hair
there.
gel too. It's like everything that could have gone wrong.
Well, wait, Gordon Hayward has the hair gel and it looks immaculate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that pull off the hair gel. I don't necessarily like. For example, to play what was it, a month ago now, probably on Caruso.
Yeah.
That one was tough because I think if he doesn't have the pre-existing reputation that he does have, I think it's viewed in a totally different way. I think it's viewed as a bad foul and a foul that people would be like, he shouldn't have done that. That was overly aggressive, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think he gets attacked nearly the way that he was. And it's talked about the way that it was, is my take.
It doesn't help that he looks a little like Ted Cruz. Everything hurts him. Like everything kind of hurts. You're right.
He's got a lot of things working against him.
But
sure.
Caruso, who I think was like, how do you not re-sign the guy for the Lakers? He's been amazing.
He's been great.
I thought it was a dirty play, and I think his reputation, like, you have that rep for a reason. I'm sorry. Like, you know, I'm all for forgiving, but like, you know, it was dirty. I was against, and I'm not here to defend the Bulls. I'm so mad we didn't sign DeRozan, the Knicks, by the way. How did we not sign that guy?
Had an opportunity to. I feel like a lot of teams had an opportunity to. Like, I
think he would have liked New York too. He's a good player.
He's so incredible.
And he's a guy who's elevated as he's gotten to sort of the later part of his career.
And he's totally different. He plays different than anybody else in the league, the way he gets to his spots. And it's just he plays with a ton of skill and ability. And I mean, everyone, I love it. Everyone says, oh, mid-range is dead, this or that or whatever. And here he is carrying the first. Well, we're also the first team in the East at this point, but tied top team in the East.
They've had a lot of injuries too, though.
They've had a lot.
Williams is out, and they had.
So have we, just for the record.
That's true. And you guys got ravaged last year with your defense. I mean, I will say this: I did not want you guys. It was a moment where it was going to be the Knicks Heat 4-5, and I was like, I don't want the Heat. I thought we would have beaten the Hawks. I did not expect them to wipe the floor with us, but I really didn't want the Heat.
Yeah, it came down to that final weekend. I remember because it was all in limbo of who we were going to play. We actually played Milwaukee, I think the second to last game of the season.
You match up well with them. I know you lost last year, but like,
we got
Bam is a good matchup for Giannis, and then
PJ now I think does a really good job guarding Giannis. We have a couple guys, Jimmy, that we can throw at him, just because he's just one of those guys. You just got to try to slow him down. You're not going to stop him. But we've played well against Milwaukee so far this year, and honestly, since I've been with the Heat, I think they're obviously a tough team to prepare for, but they are very Giannis-centric also in the same way. It's mostly preparing for Giannis. And that's no disrespect to the rest of the roster. I think Drew Holiday added an entirely different element to them, which we really saw last year in the playoffs. He was the best player in our series, I thought, and we thought. And just his impact on both sides of the ball is high level.
He's killing it. I think he might have been an all-star snub this year, too. I
mean, for sure.
With all he does, I know Middleton had better numbers, but Middleton missed more games. Yep. Drew is so good.
Yeah.
No, he is. He really is. You got anything else?
No.
Well, Sam, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Anytime, man. Yeah, I love it.
This is great stuff. You actually have a podcast of your own.
I have two. We might be drunk in this studio and have a basketball pod called Pod Don't Lie with Stavros, who you got to have on.
I love it.
You guys will love Stav. He's the biggest Bucks fan. He loves Giannis. He's like the Knicks are his other team, but he's obsessed with Giannis. So
I love it.
We got to have him on.
You guys opened the pod with a remix of "They're Playing Basketball," but it's like the lyrics are changed to "But they're dumb as shit." But it's like, no, your level of basketball knowledge is high, as we've seen in this conversation. And I've listened to the pod.
Genuinely impressed.
They get in depth about.
I love the NBA. It's one of the things where we shit on players all the time, but like the truth is, I like pretty much I just like the NBA so much that I'm kind of like. I like most players. The NBA is like the WWE now, where there's drama. Ben Simmons is like, maybe he'll go like face next. He was heel. Then Embiid, you're kind of rooting for him because I thought he handled it like such a badass. And I could never. And Philly's another team I hate, but damn, I like Embiid a lot. And Doc Rivers, like, man, if somehow he gives up a 3-1 lead in the playoffs this year, like it might be he might be on the hot seat.
No, it's true. But you're right. I told Duncan this earlier, but that was my biggest takeaway from All-Star is just the production of it all. You're right. It's like WWE. I mean, it's just these guys are on a stage. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway is it was like these guys were in a circus. It's just the cameras everywhere, the prompters everywhere. It was such a production.
The amount of celebrities there is hilarious.
That was crazy.
Guy Fieri sitting at half court for some reason while Jack Harlow's tucked away in the corner. And it's like, that feels like it should be reversed.
Don't disrespect guys.
I like the way they did the skills competition. That was fun.
Yeah, I thought
I liked the Antetokounmpo brothers and the rookies. The rookie class is incredible too. Barnes is amazing. Mobley is like a freak. That kid.
Yeah.
Cunningham is terrific. I still think Green will be really good. I just wish I wish the Knicks could get an earlier pick. This is how you turn into the Magic. I know that they have some good young players now, but like for years it was like the 8th pick. That you're just trapped.
It's true.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. Like you said, we'll definitely do this again.
It was fun.
Maybe get you on around the playoffs or something. We can let's do it. Really dial it up.
Playoff preview.
I love that.
Yeah.